Hi, it's Michelle here from CNC Designs. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in New Zealand, and today I'd like to show you how to make a pop-up card. We'll be creating this pop-up Christmas card, so you can see the trees and the reindeer and stuff, and on the back there's area for you to write your message. And I've designed this so it folds conveniently to fit into an A6 envelope. And I first started doing pop-up cards last year. I was watching videos for them and sized them down to fit the New Zealand A4 sheets of paper, because most of the ones I saw were in American inches. And so for this, I will show you how to do it, and then I will show you some of the other lovely pop-up cards I've made for a customer just recently. But as you can see, it doesn't matter which way you fold it down, it folds up nicely, and you can just see the little deer peeking out from the back. Now this card is made using items from the Most Wonderful Time Medley, which is in the current holiday brochure, so you can still order from this up till January 2nd. And the nice thing was this, it comes with a pack of 6 by 6 inch designer series paper, stamp set, dies to cut out some of the images, lovely shimmery ribbon, some stars and stickers and other background images. So there's lots that you can do with this set, and that's what I've used for the card that we're going to do here today. So let's get started. So when I created, last year I had a big event and created a card to go with that event. And I do have instructions we handed out, and as last year it was the Signs of Santa pop-up design that I used. So if you'd like to get a copy of the instructions, just message me with your email and I can email that instruction sheet to you. But I will be putting the details on my blog as well, as mentioning some of the sizes here in this video. So you start with an A4 sheet, and I'm using Old Olive, which is one of my favorites, especially for Christmas, and it matches with the designer series paper. So with that, you cut 16 centimeters here and 10.5 centimeters there. And if you cut it the way I'm showing you, you actually get 3 sections. So you can make one full card with one piece, and then you've got enough for half of another card. So for 2 sheets of A4, you can actually make 3 pop-up cards with these measurements. So I've already gone and cut the 2 sections here, so that's 16 centimeters across and 10.5, which is exactly half of our A4. So I've got those 2, and then I'll cut the rest of them here, showing you our new Stampin' Trimmer. So with the piece left over, it's not really left over, but you need 2 central pieces, and those are at 1.5 centimeters down the long side. And so I believe that's 13.7 that way, but it's just basically the leftover piece. And then another 1.5 centimeters. And so you don't need this for the card we're making, but as I will show you, you've actually got enough left over that you could do 1/2 of another card. So that's why I sized it. So you stick the 2 pieces together and that way have a bit left over. Now, those 2 pieces that we cut there, we need to score them at 1.9 centimeters, which is also 3/4 of an inch. Make sure I get the right end here. So score that, and then we'll score the other one at 1.9 or 3/4 of an inch. Scoring. Yep. And the same for the other one. I'm getting used to the new cutter. But it cuts so much better than the old one because the blade is much longer and you can do several sheets. So those 2 pieces we'll be using for the inside, so we'll set those aside for now. Then these 2 pieces here, you score one side at 15 centimeters. Which gives you a 5 centimeter or 5 centimeters on that side. And then you, half a centimeter on that side, sorry. And then you slide it down to 5 centimeters and score it again. And then turn it the long ways and you score it at 5.5 centimeters. Okay, so it's not totally in half, it's 5.5. Okay, now the other piece, you start out the same, 15 centimeters scoring it, which gives you half a centimeter on that side. And then at 5 centimeters. Now this is going to be our back piece. So we're going to score at 5.5, but we don't need the score line to go through the big center bit because that'll be standing up. So we only want to score up to the score line there. So you might not be able to see it in the video very well, but I'm just going to score right to that first mark, or roughly there, and then I'm going to score from that first mark out. Okay, so you might be able to see I've only scored there and there. Doesn't matter, I went slightly over. But those two parts are where you need to score. So this one is scored completely through, and this one isn't, because that's going to be our back piece. And that's all we need the cutter for now. So now, with this one, we need to do some cutting. Okay, and I always forget which way around I did that. So the we're going to cut through the lines, and I need to make sure I cut the right way around. We want the shorter end. Yeah, that's the part. So the part that's 5.5 centimeters, you're going to cut down the top to there. So we're going to cut down this top part, straight down just to that flap. And then we're going to cut this part off because we don't need this part. We only need the bottom tab. And I like to do it at a slight angle here, so it sits better when you put the tabs together. And just to check that see, that's the wrong way around. Just check I'm cutting the right way around. Same heights. So cutting down this part, the top, that's the 5 centimeter section. And cutting this part there. I'm noticing the lighting is making this look like it's garden green, but it is old olive. Just bad sunlight today. Okay. So then, now that we have that cut, we just go ahead and burnish our score lines. So we'll come in on itself, and the flaps are going to go out. So burnish those. Okay. And this is going to be the opposite side, so this will go in this way, and in that way. And then the flap will go out. Okay, so you can see that the top flap is actually shorter. The part that we cut is slightly shorter than the other side. I might just adjust that slightly. Get a better scoring. Okay. So now we're ready to pop the card together. Now these two little pieces here, you could use the bone folder to burnish them, but they're just small enough. I just fold them over on the edges there. Okay. So now we'll grab our glue, and we're going to put our box together. And so just a bit of Tombow on that side. Now, because it's exactly the same length, you can simply just set the two bits together. I like to line them up, and I use the Tombow liquid glue because it gives me wiggle room, so room to move around to get it adjusted in there. And then turn it over. Just that slightly. Line that up better. And then put some glue here. And we should just be able to fold it straight over on top of itself, because it's the right length. So it just folds right on top of itself, adjusted a bit. hold it for a second or two. Give it a bit of a rub to make sure the glue holds it, and then I like to just fold it against the other direction because the more you work with the card, the easier, more flexible it gets. Okay, so that's the base of our card. All right, now these two bits get stuck in the center. That's where the center bits will hold it up, but it's easier to put the inside together. Now the other parts that we need, which I forgot to mention, for the back of the card, we just have a piece of Whisper White that's going to cover the back. If you want to do a matte to add extra color, you can do that. I think the instructions mention a matte, but make sure you stamp that before you glue that down. And then for the inside, I've got, for each corner, I've got 4.5 by 4.5 centimeters, which is 1 3/4 and 1 3/4 inch in the foil. And then I've got 4 by 4 centimeter squares that will be going over the foil. For the front part, I've got a 9.5 centimeter by 4.5 centimeter, which is 3 3/4 by 2 3/4 matte piece of foil that's going there. And then on top of that, will be the trees, and so this is 0.5 centimeter smaller. So this would be 9 centimeters by 4 centimeters. I'm not sure what that is in inches. So that'll be going here. Now in the back, I've got the foil. It is 9.5 by 7 centimeters, which is 3 3/4 by 2 3/4 inches to stick back here. Now I don't have it going the whole way down because to me that's just a waste. You don't really see it down when you're looking straight on it and when it's folded up, as well as that's where I tend to put my stamp with my name and things down there. And so the trees on that is again just 0.5 centimeter smaller, so that would be 9 by 6.5 centimeters to put that there. When I put things together, if I'm using a specialty paper like foil or glitter paper, things like that, I don't like to waste it because it only comes in 2 12 by 12 inch sheets, so you don't get a lot, and so I like to save as much as I can. So to do that, I tend to cut out parts in the center because once you put the designer series paper on top of it, you're not going to see the center of it, so that doesn't matter. So for this one, see how I have the lovely gold sentiment pop-up there? So for this center part, I'm just going to use the die, which comes with that set, and I'm going to cut out a section there before I glue it down. And then for this section, I'm just going to use one of our stitched rectangles to cut out a section there, because what I cut out will it'll be hidden by the designer series paper. And for the little squares, again, I don't like to waste anything. You're not going to see the other side of it because it'll be covered up, so I'm just using one of our layered squares, and I'm going to cut out that section before I glue it all together. So I will go do that in just a moment, but before I go, I will stamp the sentiment, the Oh Christmas Tree. Now that I'm going to cut out with the same die, but then I'm going to snip around it to make it fit nice and neatly in there. So I will stamp that out here using the old olive and just a scrap of Whisper White cardstock. So I always turn my stamps over to check that everything's fine. And stamp first before you cut or adhere anything in case you don't like how it's stamped out, because you can always turn it over and use the other side. Okay, so it doesn't matter that that's a bit wobbly, because when I cut it out with the die, I can adjust it on the die to make it look like it was stamped straight. So I will go cut all these out on my die cutting machine, and then I will come back and show you how to assemble it all. So I'll be right back. Okay, there's one other thing I forgot that I need to stamp and cut out is the tree. So I will do that as well before I go cut everything out. And so this is the big Christmas tree. Again, it comes in that stamp set. the Most Wonderful Time stamp set. It's quite a lovely tree, and there's a die that cuts it out perfectly, so just give that some pressure there. And then I can wrap the foil around it, the shiny ribbon around it to decorate my tree. There we go. Okay, now I will go cut everything out, and I will be right back. Okay, I'm back from cutting everything out. So I've got my tree, and so that was that section I cut the gold out of it, but that's fine. You won't be able to see it because it'll be covered up. And then these other gold pieces, I cut sections out. If you don't have any of the layering dies to do that, just put a punch in and punch out a shape, because you're not going to see what it's going to be hidden with the designer series paper, but that gives you extra gold foil or any other specialty paper that you can use for something else. I do that too, just like when I'm layering different cardstock, because as I said, you're not going to see it. So that's all going to be hidden behind these pieces. All right, now with the Christmas tree, the Oh Christmas Tree, I'm not sure if you can see, I actually ran it through twice. Let's see if you can, it's not showing up very well. I ran it through twice, so I got a distinct edge. You can maybe see that distinct edge there, and that's what I'm going to use to trim off so it'll fit nicely inside the gold. And so I'm just going to trim right where I see those lines, which you probably can't see, but that's how I got it the shape. I didn't eyeball it. I actually had a method to the madness that I cut it with, and I think it comes out really nice. It just gives it that little bit of gold peeking out. And so just trimming it. Yeah, I don't think the video is showing the line very well, but if you run it through a couple times, it just gives you that little extra line. See, on here you might be able to see that line there. So if I cut that right, it should fit right inside there. I might trim it down. Oh no, that's pretty good. Might trim the edge off slightly. Can't cut straight, especially when I'm on camera. There we go. So that gets glued onto that section and gives you the nice gold going around the edge. And so these all get glued to everything. So I will pause the video and glue everything together, because you don't really need to be watching that. Okay, so I glued all my bits together so I can put them onto the card. I find it easier to do it when it's lying down, and just make sure you turn your designer series paper over so you don't stick it in there upside down. And so you can see there's that part sticking out. That's fine, because it's not going to be seen. So just a bit of glue around the bit outside, and I just do one little strip in the middle. I find that Tombow is best, especially at this time of year in New Zealand, because it's quite hot and the double-sided tape might come away. It also gives you the wiggle room to move it into place. Once you're happy with that, I just go over it to help spread the Tombow around the back with my bone folder. And then do some trees on the side. This is a really lovely stamp set because you get a lot of interesting images. With the gold shimmer on the images, it just really lends itself to using gold foil. So I gotta make sure I put that the right way around. Okay, and again, just give it a bit of a rub to get it in place. And the next little bit. So those scraps that I cut out earlier, I usually have a little, either put them back in with my foil, or I just have a pile of scraps that I just set aside, and then when I'm going to create something, I just kind of look through some of my scraps and see what fits or what works. Because sometimes you just need that little tiny bit, maybe to cut a star out for a Christmas tree or a little bauble or something, so you don't need a big piece. And that's why every little bit of foil saved helps. Okay. And then the front one. So this is a really effective Christmas card because, or any type of card. I already have plans to do some with some of the new sets that are going to be coming out in the new year, because when you give it to somebody, they can enjoy it all the time, stick it on their desk, you know, because it's popped up, and depending on how you move the card, you get different views every time. Okay, so we'll leave those for later. So now we got to stick this center parts in. That's going to help hold things, make them stand up. So a little glue on either side of your flaps, and then I just slide it in, and I line up, I don't know if you can see, I line up the edge to the back, and you don't want it sticking up above the lip. So just lining it up to the back, and no higher than the edge. If it goes lower, that's fine. Just depends on what you're sticking in there. So hold it for a second, and then I do the folding, and that helps to pop it into place. I fold it into place and give it a bit of a rub, and then I test it by folding it the other way. So if it pops out a bit while you're folding it, that's fine. It will eventually stick shut. So I was trying to fold it that way. There we go. I need to hold it down for a bit longer. Tombow doesn't take too long to dry. There we go. And then the other one. So this one won't go right in the center. There'll be a bit of a gap. I might not have had enough Tombow on that last one. So it's up to you if you want it to go butting up against there, or you could butt it up against the front. I just tend to butt them up against each other. And it's just to give you something to stick the central part into. So if you find that they're not going close enough, you can always cut a little off that flap to bring it in a bit more, but you don't want it to sit too high. So we're going to fold that. And that's where the Tombow is really good for this, because when you fold it, it needs to have room to slide into place. But you don't want it hanging above this edge here. So you got to make sure that they're lower than the edge. They're not sitting proud, basically. And then, so sometimes if it doesn't fold, see that one's slipping. If it doesn't fold right, you just move it into place. That's better. Yeah, the score lines seem to not be in the right spot. There we go. Alright, so fold that way and fold that way. I don't know why that guy's not doing what he needs to. There we go. Fold and fold. There, it's better. Okay. So when you look at it this way, nothing's sitting up above. And the reason I use the same color is it blends in the background. If you were trying to do a different image, and I'll show you some cards in a minute, you could use a different color for the strips there if you want. Now, with this card, the way I did the rest of it is these are actual stickers that came with the set. So they're part of that Most Wonderful Time medley. It actually comes with a bunch of stickers. So instead of stamping images and cutting them out and putting them on there, I just went with the stickers. So first, I will choose which ones I want to use. And it comes with lots, as you can see, I've already used a lot of the trees and the reindeer, etc. So I need to choose which ones I want. Now, because they are stickers, if I just stuck them down with their legs, when I close the card, they would stick to the back of the card. So what you need to do when you put your stickers on, I think I'll go with this guy. And they're not really loose. They are actually like on card. But what you need to do when you stick those on is you need to make them unsticky. Now, there's a few different ways that you can do that. Some people just say, you know, you can just stick them onto your clothing or, you know, onto your jeans, put them on your jeans to get some of the tacky off. But see, I just put that on my jeans and you can see some color got on the back. But the best way to do it is to use your buddy, for your embossing buddy. So there's the embossing buddy. Just simply pat it a bit because it's got powder in it, and the powder just takes the stickiness off of it. So lots of ways to get it unsticky: rubbing it on clothing or patting it. You could, you know, stick some card behind it, but then you'd have to cut out the card to make it fit the image. So once you put enough powder on it, you can feel it's no longer sticky, and then you can glue it down. So I'm just gonna make my deer unsticky, and let's see, which deer have I got? I think I will do one of these guys. So I'm just preparing my deer to be used in the card. And see, because there's some powder on there, I'm just going to rub that powder on the back here. It's not sticking. Okay, that's nice and not sticky. And then I will have another little one. So this just has powder that comes out of it. Don't know if it's baking powder or what it is, but it's quite good. Use it for when you're embossing so you don't get the static cling. So I'm just picking up the extra powder that's stuck on, that came off when I was doing that. Okay, and then my trees, I've only got 2 trees left, so I'm going to have to use both of them. So I don't know if you can see the powder coming off there. So that's got a bit of powder up there. Yep, that's no longer sticky. And my last tree, quite a big one. So as you can see, I've really enjoyed this set. I've got a lot of use out of the stickers, used it in classes, etc. So there we go, get that all powdered up. Okay, so those are my trees done, and my reindeer done. So those are prepared. So now I need to put some ribbon onto my Christmas tree. So the easiest way to do this is to put a little bit of sticky on the back. There we go. So I just put a little bit of snail on the back. Doesn't have to be in a lot of spots, just where you're going to start and end your ribbon. And then I just take the ribbon, find the end of it, and so these items you can't buy separately. They only come in that suite, so, and it's only available while stocks last until January 2nd. So I'm just wrapping this around the tree, just giving me a bit of a bling there, and that's probably sufficient. Now because I have the sticky on the back, it's going to hold it in place. Trim that off. There we go. Wish we could buy this separately because I'm really liking those. And then it also comes with some beautiful little gold stars. So I can have my little gold star for the top of my tree, right from the same package. So basically, if you bought that package, you'd only just need to get some old olive cardstock. Okay, so there's my star on the top of my tree. Now, just need to put it all together. So, when I put it together, first I'll want to put the back on because it'll be more difficult to stick the back on it once it's all the bits are there. So for the back part, I'm actually going to stamp it, the sentiment, in our lovely golden glitz ink. And the sentiment for this one I have taken from my other favorite set, the So Many Stars. May you enjoy this beautiful season. So, again, stamp first before you stick it down in case it doesn't come out the way you want. So I'm getting lots of gold on there. I always turn it over to check that it's sufficiently inked. And something like this that's slightly offset, I put it offset on the card. And then I'm going to do a tree. The original one, yeah, I did stamp a tree. I was going to say I thought I did a sticker, but no, it was a tree. So it has another tree in this set, which can be cut out. But I just like to put it down. And it's one of those that gives you different shades on it. So that's in the old olive ink. And so it gives you different shading on the tree in the one stamp. It's lovely. And because I have the stars, I'm going to pop another little star on top of this tree. And just slide it into place right on top. So these stars, because they're sticky already, it's much easier to pop them together. There we go. And now we'll just glue that down. Oh, I hope I did it the right way around. And I didn't. That's why you don't glue first, because it should go that direction. Okay, second try. See, nobody's perfect. So check, because this is a rectangle, not a square. So did that to see if you were watching, staying awake. Okay, so hopefully this is gonna stamp nicely, because otherwise I'll have to cut more card. There we go, there. And tree again. This is also why quite often I do things off camera so you can't see if I mess something up. Okay, another tree here. Lovely. I always put my ink away because otherwise I'm bound to stick my hand in it somewhere. Okay, so that's the right way around. Good. So that's why you must stamp before you place things down. Okay, so that fits there. See? Fits nicely on there. And then just get the bone folder in to help spread any of that ink off to any of that glue off to the edges. And no, I did not forget my star. And because it's sticky, I still have it there. There. So there's the back done. Okay. Back to the front. I hope you're still with me. So, when you stick the things down, it's best if you just kind of figure out where you want things to be placed before you stick it down. And the other tip is when you're sticking items down, make sure that they're not stuck too tall. Because, see, if I stuck that up really high, when I close it, it'd be sticking out of the card and wouldn't fit properly in the envelope. So you need to check what height you need. It's okay if things are sticking over the edge, because when it folds to the side, it's not going to go over the edge. So I've kind of got an idea where that's got to go. And so I will stick my glue down here, just on the bottom. Wiggle it into place. And then I will just double check it's not too tall. Give it a good press. Okay. Now, just realized something I did. Okay, so now I want to put my reindeer in place. So that one will be sniffing at the bottom of the Christmas tree. So we could have that one there, I'd say. So just a little bit onto the legs. And then maybe a little on the nose. So it will hold it in place. I'm just doing it up at a bit of an angle so it has room to, you can still see it. Okay. And this guy, I'm just going to put just on the legs there. And see, he can hang over the side, that's fine, because when you close it, as long as he's not hanging too far over. So because I got the Tombow, I can slide him to make sure his antlers aren't over the edge. Okay. This guy, I just realized I didn't need to take the sticky off because I could have just stuck it straight on there. So I think I will grab one that's already sticky. I'm just going to have another one looking out without antlers. So, because this is going to be in the background looking out, I didn't need to take the sticky off of it because it's actually going to be viewing. So you just want to check to make sure it's in a spot where it can be seen. So it's just hiding behind the tree in the background. And that just sticks down because it's a sticker. And then the bigger tree will be in the foreground because that's how I think the trees are. They're bigger when they're closer and smaller when they're further away. Okay, so I will just pop that guy over there, just at the bottom. Now the deer is going to be hiding behind it. And now since this is going to be up in the front, I'm actually going to glue it to the top as opposed to back there because then that gives you the layer. But again, I got to make sure I'm not going to glue it too high up. So I'm just checking to see where to put my glue. And then I'm just going to slip it in and adjust it. That's okay height-wise. And then just check, can I see everybody when I move it around, maybe over there a bit, because then you can still see that reindeer in the background. Okay, so I'm just checking to see what I can see in the background when I move it around. Okay. And then just push it in place. There. So now on some other cards I'll put decoration on the edges, but this one I think doesn't need it. We're just going to finish by popping up that Christmas tree saying with some dimensionals. I like to cut my dimensionals in half because then they last longer. And I don't have to use full dimensionals, just enough to hold the edges in place. Here's the last one. Just put that in place and we're almost done. So I hope you've liked this so far. If you would like the instructions, send me a message with your email and I can email them to you. If you like the video, give me a thumbs up. If you'd like to buy any of these products, I'd be happy to sell them to you. If you don't already have a demonstrator and you are in New Zealand, contact me. If you are not in New Zealand, then go to the Stampin' Up website to look for a demonstrator there. So there you go. There's our pop-up card. We can fold it flat. There's a room to write on the back. And when you fold it flat, it does fit in an envelope, which I will show you. And I always like to put a little something on the envelope. So that's a normal A6 envelope, and this is sized to fit perfectly into the envelope. If you don't put a lot of dimensionals or thick pieces on it, it should send through the mail just fine. So if you've done it correctly, you can fold it that way or you can fold it that way. Sometimes you find one way folds better depending on what's in there. But when I put it in the envelope, I tend to put it in that way so when they pull it out, they can see the message and then they can pop it up. So the other ones I have, so that's the one that we've created today. with the Wonderful Time Medley. And this is the one that I originally created last year, so that's the back, wishing you everything on your list. And this was made with the Signs of Santa stamp and designer series paper from last year. So if you have any of those left, that's one you can do, and so you can see the interesting Santa scene. And that one I've decorated. I didn't use the designer series paper on the edges. I actually put pictures on the edges. Put those there, kind of see them. This is another one. This was done with the snowman. So the back of it is wrapped in the warmth of Christmas. And so this one I've just recently done, again using last year's designer series paper, but I used this year's puff paint to make the snow, and the embossing folder, I believe, is from last year. But as you can see, this one I put white, so it looked like snow between there. And so any way you move it, you get a lovely image in the background. Here's another one. This one is done using the presents that are in this Wonderful Time set. So you can stamp up the presents and cut them out with the ribbon. So that's what I have around the base of here. The designer series paper is from last year, but the truck and the presents are from this year. And so I've just got it. I did that because it kind of matches with the paper in the background. Everybody getting their packages. And then this one I think was my favorite. Took me ages to sort it out because I was having too much fun figuring out where to put the stars. So May the Seasons Sparkle with Love and Friendship. That is from a stamp set last year, but all the stars are from this year. And so you can see the beautiful, it's not traditional color, but I really think it just jumps out. So this one here, I've used some window sheets to stick the stars on, so that makes them stand up further. And depending on how you fold it, see that got folded wrong, it got bent. So just with 3 different colors, I did this one. But all these images were cut out of that stamps set dies, and that's from the So Many Stars. I'm not sure if that's the name of the die, but I will have it in the description of the products used. But so this one is lovely for any old way. So this would be good for even a New Year's card. But this was for an order for Christmas cards. So those are all the cards, the pop-up cards that I've done recently. As you can see, they sit nicely on your table with all the lovely images. And so if you'd like to know more, have a read of my blog. I will put all the details of the items used and the instructions on my blog, or you can email me directly if you'd like them sent to you. So I hope you've enjoyed that. I've enjoyed making them, and come back soon to see more videos. Thank you very much. Bye.